Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the summit brought to you by Rwanda Television. I'm your host, Martina Abera, and today we're diving deep into an exciting and rapidly evolving sector, the sports business in Rwanda. Under the theme Sports Business Beyond Just the Game, we'll unravel how the latest developments in our sports industry, as well as infrastructure, including the stunning new Amahoro Stadium, Kigali Arena, and the upgraded Tour du Rwanda, and the development in the car racing industry, and how they're creating a wealth of opportunities for investors as well as stakeholders alike. So joining me to dive into this conversation is our two distinguished guests. We're going to be starting with the director of Tour du Rwanda, Freddy Kamuzizi. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, I'm also joined by an investor as well as the president of the Rwanda Automobile Club, Christian Gakwaya. You're welcome.
Thank you, Martina. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. And together we're going to be exploring how these developments are redefining the landscape of sports beyond just the thrill of competition, but looking at its economic growth and sustainable development. Now, before we dive into the conversation, I would like for us to set the mood or the tone of this show by beginning with a story. Sports is no longer just what happens on the field or the court and the track. Behind every goal, every sprint, and every victory is an intricate economic engine that fuels jobs, investments, and billion-dollar industries. From sponsorship deals and media rights to sports infrastructure and talent exports, the business of sports is transforming economies, creating opportunities, and shaping the future of global entertainment. Let's first watch this story, and that explains business as well as sports business that we're talking about, and we'll be right back.
Sports is more than just a game. In Rwanda, it's a business, a movement, and a catalyst for economic transformation. From basketball arenas to cycling roads, from stadium vendors to sports tourism, the impact of sports on Rwanda's economy is undeniable. But how did we get there, and where are we going next? Let's take a deep dive into sports business in Rwanda beyond the game. Rwanda's sports industry has undergone a significant transformation in recent years. Government policies, strategic investments, and private sector engagement have propelled the country into the regional and global sports arena. Events like BAL, Basketball Africa League, Tour du Rwanda, FIA, and various football and athletics competition have positioned Rwanda as a hub for sports excellence and business. Take Tour du Rwanda, for instance. Once a local race, it has now gained international recognition, attracting top cycling teams from around the world. But beyond the competition, there is an entire ecosystem: hospitality, transport, media rights, sponsorships, all contributing to the national economy. Infrastructure is a key. The BK Arena, one of Africa's top indoor stadiums, has become a magnet for international tournaments and entertainment events. With ongoing upgrades to stadiums and training facilities, Rwanda is not just hosting sports, it's building a sustainable industry. Sports tourism is another game changer, with Rwanda's reputation for safety, hospitality, and natural beauty. Visitors attending sporting events often extend their stay to explore the country. This creates more demand for hotels, restaurants, and local businesses. The business of sports in Rwanda is just getting started. With strategic planning, continued investment, and growing talents, the future looks bright. Beyond the game, sports is shaping Rwanda's economy, inspiring the youth, and putting the country on the global map. President Paul Kagame on 23rd December 2024, while officiating the swearing-in ceremony of the newly appointed Minister of Sports, Neri Mukazaire, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Sports, Rwego Ngarambe, and the Minister of State in charge of National Treasury in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Godfrey Kabera, told his new cabinet members to find ways to generate resources from sports, which he described as a business based on talent.
Sport tugerageza gukora kugira ngo siporo mu byo n'ubundi igeza ku bantu.
What we are striving to achieve in sports is to ensure that among the many things that sports brings to people, they also generate revenues. Today, sports is a business built on the talents of Rwandans or others from elsewhere. That talent can be marketed and turned into a source of income. That is our goal. That is why we have made efforts to establish certain systems, such as building infrastructures that support sports, so that many Rwandans can have access to such opportunities. Additionally, various facilities have been built in districts and various areas.
Hari n'ibindi byinshi byagiye byubakwa no mu turere n'ahandi.
And that story has given us an overview of the sports industry in Rwanda and how over the course of the years, Rwanda is turning it into a business hub for opportunities, not only for job creation, but as well as a contributor to the economic growth. Now, let us kick things off. We can start off with both of you shedding light on the sports discipline in the respective sectors that you are currently in. We can start off with the director of Tour du Rwanda, because the next edition is right around the corner. In your own words or in your own understanding, how do you think the sports discipline in Tour du Rwanda has evolved in terms of development in Rwanda?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, I think in the we have seen earlier, we talked about this competition being a local competition, and today it's an international competition. I think that definitely describes what you've just asked. We have made a big step, forward, and not only from an event perspective, but also from an athlete's perspective, cycling development perspective, where we are today even ready to actually host the championship in September. So you can really tell, from 2008 or 2009 when we started, to date, the evolution is really dramatic.
Thank you very much. And over to you, Gakwaya. How is car racing development in Rwanda currently?
Great. So, motorsport is one of the, I can say, the most promising sports currently. It has been existing for quite a number of years, but now we have embarked a new journey where we can say, where we said let's build motorsport to compete, to host, but also to be able to be recognized on the international level. So I believe in December we hosted the FIA, which is the governing body. We hosted the General Assembly, but also the award ceremony, for the purpose of making sure that we bring the world to Rwanda and tell them motorsport is existing, motorsport can grow, and it's a long-term journey that we're starting now. So we started by hosting that event, but also by developing motorsport as a pyramid from the grassroots up to the top level, because we believe that it has to have a sustainability element. So we can't just do events only. My colleague Freddie just mentioned it. So as you build, the sport, you need to touch on the talent part, the infrastructure part, but also on the economic part, which you mentioned about. So we are in the new journey where we, bringing all those elements together, and we hope and we are confident that we're heading somewhere, with a bigger vision, but also with some steps we have to follow to achieve what we're targeting.
Yes, not moving far from that. Speaking of Rwanda hosting the FIA Awards back in December, how did that contribute to more people, especially here in Rwanda, coming to the awareness of motorsport as a potential great sport here in the country in terms of bringing revenue, but also as a sport that they can be able to embark on as individuals?
Yeah, thank you. So it has been a journey because, motorsport has been previously perceived as a sport for a certain group of people, or limited to some people. So when we started this journey, we said, okay, let's open up motorsport in Rwanda. I mentioned earlier about the grassroots project that we started, which involves young people from the early age, boys and girls. We have programs focusing on girls to empower girls to join motorsport. But now coming back to the FIA event itself, we had a couple of objectives. So one was to make sure that we put Rwanda on the map of motorsport, which really wanted to be we had to achieve that, because considering the target we have and the couple of other projects we have in the future, there was no other way to make sure that we position ourselves rather than hosting an event like this, because most of the attendees or the guests we had, a couple of them didn't know about Rwanda, didn't know that even motorsport exists in our country. So we had to make sure that we bring them, we present, we introduce a couple of projects, but we also share our vision. We share our vision, we show that Rwanda is ready to partner, because we did not only host members, but we also hosted partners, sponsors, investors in motorsport, to position Rwanda as their next destination. And I personally think the target has been achieved, because we have received very good feedback after the event, and there is a couple of follow-up objectives that are being achieved.
Indeed, there is great feedback, because even Rwanda being able to submit a bid to host Formula One is something that is not of the lowest caliber, and we can see that motorsport in Rwanda is definitely taking it to greater heights in the country. Over to you, Freddie. Can you please share with us, in your perspective, on the ongoing sports development initiatives that are possibly changing the landscape of sports in Rwanda, from not only just sports as just a competition, but also as a business?
Yeah, I mean, basically, obviously, back in the days, we all thought differently. We had a different approach, just focusing on, I would say, from the sporting perspective, and not really thinking that we would, at some point, really make use of this opportunity to really create more business opportunities. I believe that by the fact that we actually host people in our country, that itself creates opportunity, because people come for the event, but they also visit the country. They actually have the opportunity to experience, the country's life, and what opportunities, what business, they would interest to, to undertake in the country. And of course, our platform being sport is, I would say, one of the platforms globally, that bring people together. From that moment, I think that what we have been creating over years through creating platforms, not only for the athletes, but I think that with this approach of our leadership, it is a big opportunity for us, not only for local partners. Christian talked about even sponsors earlier. Definitely for them, but also for international, strategic partners that we have. I think bringing these people together in the country really creates some, trigger some, opportunities, and then definitely help us also to achieve our objective to, actually tap into the business opportunity around the sports industry. I think that by doing so, this will actually create a sustainability, because the sport, if I talk about the cycling, is a sport that really requires a lot of, from a financial perspective, that requires a lot of means. But if we are able to put together that synergy of the sport and the business around it, I think that we will be winning at the end of the day, not only from a sports perspective, but also as a country.
Yes, maybe diving specifically into Tour du Rwanda, which is around the corner. Over the course of the years, there has been some development, but like we're speaking of turning sports into business, are there some of those opportunities for Tour du Rwanda to be able to turn the amazing cycling sports into some business opportunities that you're seeing, even as we embark on the latest edition?
Yeah, definitely. I think that first and foremost, if we look at our athletes, we create some opportunities where the exposure that they benefit may definitely attract, international teams, to actually consider our athletes, and that also enhance their lifestyle and opportunities. Secondly, from a Tour du Rwanda, with all this exposure, it creates interest from international companies that will also be are very interested to be associated with such an event, which means, of course, through sponsorship that really generates ultimately revenues, not only for the cycling, and as I said, it also can also generate other opportunities outside the sport. Because I think what we need to understand is we need to expose our country, we need to open our country, and the only way to do that is to bring people in our country, is actually also to expose our country. And from a Tour Rwanda perspective, I think that the international coverage that we benefit is one of the key players, is one of the catalysts that really, works towards achieving that perspective.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Christian. What are some initial business opportunities that you see arising from sports development initiatives that we are seeing in today's sports industry?
Thanks, Martina. So I'll answer the question by defining again sports really as an industry, because I think, as we said earlier, sport has been initially perceived as a game. As a game, if it's soccer, it's a 90-minute. If it's cycling, it's one run or two runs, and we just end by there. But that's not the reality. Sport is an ecosystem, so there is more than just the game. So there is what happens before the game, what happens during the game, and what happens after the game, and what happens around the games. Because if it's a sport that requires infrastructure, so you're talking about infrastructure development. So by building infrastructure, there is job created. By managing the infrastructure, there are job created. By now going beyond just the infrastructure, now there are other sectors that also link to sport, that can also be linked to sport and also benefit from sport. So talking about the media itself. So media is one of the sectors you can say interconnect with sports. You're talking about marketing. So there is marketing for sport. It's a specific sector, I can say. So if you check all those sectors, events industry, now we're talking about the events industry, for example, in Rwanda. If you check motorsport, the number of people we hosted in the country. If you check Tour du Rwanda, the number of people is attracting. UCI, if I'm not wrong, it's close to 10,000 people going to come to spend a week in the country. So this is money that is going to be spent in the economy. But if you check what is the attraction of that that amount of money that's going to be spent, it's sport. So it's that event, it's that competition. So there is now going to the athlete himself. So the athlete. We should also move to the point of considering an athlete as a product, because an athlete can be commercialized by himself or by management. So once we are able to define all those elements around the sport, I think is where the monetization, even generating income, can even be much easier and even streamlined. So talents, jobs created around sport. All this is revenue. We can say yes, it's another sector. If you say, for example, marketing or media, it's another sector, but if you check the money that goes into those other industries directly connecting to sport, it proves that sport can be one of the most promising and the most growing industries, not only in Rwanda but also on the continent and globally. If you check, for example, just taking an example of the media coverage, when you watch an event, a sport event at the stadium where you have 45,000 watching the sport, you do not only consider the 45,000 people who are watching live, but also those who are watching online. You can have 1 million viewers watching a 90-minute event. If you monetize that viewership into money, it's all income generated around the sport. So I personally believe that it's a big industry that needs to be taken care of. There is a lot that needs to be done, but there's also a lot that has been done in the country. We also need to acknowledge that the leadership of our country has really done a lot and is really doing a lot. Now I think it's time for all the players. By players, I mean everyone involved in the sports industry, but also on the other sectors linked to the sport, to really consider it as a promising sector, have a proper business plan around it, and treat it as any business, as any startup that needs to grow, that needs to go through incubation and to be positioned on the market.
Yes, speaking more on the investment part, given the advancements in our sports infrastructure, what kind of interests have you seen from local or international investors in the Rwandan sports sector?
So I think the infrastructure clearly has been one of the most attractive, domains, I can say, mainly, but also led by the government and other investors. The sports events are also picking up. We have seen a couple of deals being signed by, to sponsor sports events. So that's also it's seen as sponsorship, but in a way, another one, it's an investment because they invest into a sport via sponsorship, expecting return. It can be return in terms of visibility or monetary return. So I think currently where we are, I would say we are still building the product that can be more attractive. So there is a couple of investments that have been placed in the sports sector directly, being in cycling, being in also in motorsport. We are attracting investors, but I wouldn't say that we are yet at the level where we can say we are market ready. So it's still a journey, but we have seen that some concepts have worked. So we have seen investments made in infrastructures, in key projects that are known, that are visible, that have started generating income, and that are more projects that are coming. So I would say, let's probably give it another 1 year, but keep working on it. I'm confident that more investment, even foreign direct investment, will come directly to the sport.
Thank you very much. Now, Freddie, we are witnessing Rwanda hosting international sports events, including BAL, Tour du Rwanda, cricket, and now even golf. Can you shed light on potential economic impacts that these sports events, as well as facilities, can be able to bring to Rwanda?
Well, I think that the first opportunity, I think Christian touched on it, is revenue generating for the country. Actually, the money spent in the economy is tremendous. As I said, it is very essential. The most people we bring in country, the more opportunities we create. Now, definitely, what is also very important is that our ecosystem, in terms of sports event, is very important for us as well to professionalize what we are doing. Because the more professional we become, the more trust, I would say, we get from all these big events, international or global, events that we see, and you just mentioned BAL or NBA Africa. I think that the investment that the government has put in place has actually created opportunities. So it is now also up to us, the players in the industry, to make use or to take advantage of those investments to create now opportunities for our country by creating events as, when Christian, they created a race or whatsoever, that brings those people, and from the moment they're in the country, that really creates some synergy to be able to say, hey, in this country, there's a real opportunity. Why don't we even bring X competition that we know is hosted in another country? Because they have, first of all, they're professional. They have all it takes to be, hosted in the country. So I think this is actually, it's a partnership at some point, government, private, just to make sure that we can, deliver the same objective.
Yes, and amongst various benefits that hosting such prestigious events brings, how do you envision these contributing to job creation as well as local business opportunities?
Oh, I think definitely, as I said, it's by creating or by hosting such events. Definitely, we have a number of young Rwandans or companies, local companies, that ultimately benefit from for this event. I just give you an example. For the Tour du Rwanda itself, we record around 600+ jobs created during, I would say, the weeks before and during the event. That honestly, it's 600 people that are really benefiting from this, directly from the event. On top of that, all the hospitality, all the local enterprises or local suppliers that work also with the organization to deliver the event as well. That's really create a lot of revenue in the country and contribute to the economy of the country. So I think that it's a very important to actually keep that in mind every time that one is really thinking of creating such events. It's very important that we also maximize the consumption or the use or the bring together actually more of our locals, more of our Rwandans, to take part of that event, because as I said earlier, by doing so as well, we create a certain professionalism and we expose everyone to such events that they do not necessarily have the opportunity to go and see maybe outside Rwanda and take part to that. So I think ultimately it's a 360-degree, you know, where we need to take that into consideration and ensure that, you know, everyone possible is brought on board to, you know, to actually contribute to the event. Yeah.
100%. Christian, it's not long ago that Rwanda started portraying itself, portraying sports as an income-generating entity, or more so a business hub. Do you think business people or people involved in sports are realizing that sports in Rwanda is turning into important business opportunities? And if so, what lessons can we learn from other countries who have been doing this for quite some time?
Thank you. So, as Freddie said, so I'll probably also touch on to the professional part of managing the sport, because an investor who will come into sport, or an investor or anyone who will bring money into sport, is an investor as anyone who's going into any other sector. So they need to see the numbers, they need to understand that it's something viable, they need to do the due diligence, they need to go through all the steps that any investor would go into any other business, you know, checking before they make a commitment. So I think, as I said earlier, a lot has been done, a lot is being done, but now that extra step or that extra layer is needed so that we can be able to say, okay, there is this team, for example, in this specific sport that is ready to be invested in. I give you an example. You mentioned about checking in other markets. We know that teams, basketball teams, football team, rally teams in motorsport, that are listed companies in stock exchange, where people buy shares in those companies because they are structured in a way that there is proper management, there is proper projection. So it's a whole product by itself. So I would say this is the right time for anyone who believes that, who wants to invest, not specifically in sport, because anyone who has an investment, who has capital that they want to invest, to join the sport, as the sport is aligning itself to be ready for the investment. So I think that a lot has been done and a lot is being done, but we also have some products that are ready to be invested in. So we have some teams in different sports, we have individual talents, because we don't only need to invest into teams or leagues or championships. We can also invest. We know, some of the most or the best paid athletes globally, they're individuals. They have their own brand and their own management. So those are opportunities where I believe people can start looking at and people can start considering, really, because sport can generate money and sport can be, beneficial to the investors. One element which also want to link on this, you talked about jobs. There is jobs, but also there is careers. Coming back to motorsport, in December we launched one of the products which was fully manufactured in Rwanda by local talents, using the blueprint that was produced by the International Federation. So what was the objective behind that? We wanted to say, okay, yes, we can grow motorsport, but we rely so much on importing anything we use in motorsport. So we do not have the capacity of saying we can control the cost of putting for the championship of motorsport. And we said, okay, let's go forward. If the International Federation is giving us an opportunity to produce this product, let's work with the Polytechnic School, develop something. So we had 20 students from the Polytechnic School who worked on the project with their lecturers. In a record time of less than 3 months, they produced a product which was demonstrated, which was appreciated. But now, the reason why I'm talking about careers, those 20 students and their lecturers, we are going to take this forward. We're going to produce more vehicles, which we can now use in our championship, but also export to other markets. And this will not only limit to production, because they can get jobs to maintain those vehicles. Wherever we export them, we can also export those talents. So that's what I'm saying. This is, for example, one product that in a year or 2 years will be ready for investors to come and say, okay, this is a product, put money in, because we can predict if you produce 10 cars, if you invest this amount of money, you'll get this outcome after 2, 3, 4 years. So the industry is growing. It's going to be ready, I believe, soon, and it will also keep growing. So the level of investment can come at different levels, but yes, we can start investing in sport now.
Yes, and after the students, the 20 students, together with their teachers, were given such an opportunity, do you think their confidence was grown after being entrusted with such an opportunity to manufacture their own product locally in a span of less than 3 months? Because as opposed to normally importing products and whatnot, do you think that that is going to either one, create more awareness in terms of it's a possibility for the Rwandans to create their own motor sport cars, but also understanding that they too can be able to be a part of their development in the sport for the country.
Yes, 100%. I wish I had the video that they recorded when they had just completed the production of that cross car, as we call it. It really allowed them to, it opened their eyes. That's number one. But also it did put them on the map, because now the same cross car, which was the ones we had initially imported, they were coming from Belgium, some spares were coming from Portugal, so the cost was very high. But the same product can be produced here by our local talents who did their education at the IPRC, and they feel like now it's a confirmation that the journey they went through, the education in motor vehicle engineering, can be put at use, and can be put at use not only for the local market but for the international market. Because as I mentioned earlier, we're not producing for the local market only. At some point we will export, and when we export the machine, we also export the talent. So they have endless opportunities, I can say, in front of them. We're talking about 20, but tomorrow we will also get more, or the years to come we'll get more to join. Not only for motorsport, but also other disciplines. My colleague Fred in cycling. I don't know, but I can bet that the cost of importing some of the bicycles they use, even maintaining them or spare part, that's just one component of the sport we can take. If we say tomorrow someone invests into that only, and we make sure that we cut the import on that part, even if we reduce, don't cut 100%, but we reduce it, that's a whole career created. And we're now talking about that one individual, but consider that this individual has a family. So you're also impacting the family indirectly in a way or another one. So sport can be a sector, can be a career. It is already a sector and a career, but now how do we position, and how do we also the players, now talking about like being the head of a federation, how do we make sure that we really create those opportunities and we inform everyone who can be informed to come on the table and take advantage of these opportunities? Because opportunities are there, but how we manage, how we form everyone who can benefit from those opportunities, I think it's where we need to push more.
Yeah, it's great to hear that there's not only opportunity for the country to produce its own motor cars, but also in the future to start exporting. So, yeah. And sports business is successful when there is effective marketing. And when we say marketing, there is also the role of media. So, Freddie, taking the example of Tour du Rwanda, how do you perceive the role of media in promoting this event? Not only over the course of the years, but is there any progress in terms of the promotion of the sport in media currently?
Well, I think that media are very key, not only in sport, in everything that we are doing. I think if you are communicating, it's very important, because you actually position yourself, on the global scene. So media, I think, in Rwanda particularly, from a Tour du Rwanda perspective, or from the cycling perspective, I think that we are seeing a real, development and professionalism from a media perspective around sports in general, but particularly for cycling. But again, I think that it's very important, and throughout the years, from a media perspective, one needs to, in order to survive, it's a very key to maintain, to be present, on the scene. I mean, on the international scene, and be able to every time for people to relate. It's very important. So I think that from a media perspective, we have improved a lot. When I look at where we are coming from and what is happening today, we are in a position where, and I think you will laugh, but we are in a position where we even reject some applications. That shows you also the interest that we have created over the years, and obviously the priorities also is for local media. But I think from an international perspective, this has is increasingly coming up, and we are seeing a lot of interest in even producing particular content just and I'm just talking about cycling, I'm sure that is happening in every sector from a sports perspective. And people are really interested. Like, I give you an example. For this year, Tour de Rwanda, we have seen interest from Netflix. We have seen interest from, actually currently we have even the team from Warner Bros. Coming here to cover, make a documentary around the cycling and Tour de Rwanda as well. Which I think back in days nobody would ever thought about, this happening. But I think this is happening because it's not something that comes by accident. I think that the efforts, the investment, the vision that is, instilled in this country by the leadership is also making everyone thinking outside the box and creating, interest for all these international, I would say, media as well to come and say, hey, there's a story to write about what is happening in our country from a sports perspective. So I think definitely media, as I said, are very key for ones to survive in this ecosystem. Yeah.
Yes, and for Rwanda to be able to host the championship in September, it must have marketed Tour du Rwanda in more ways than one, and putting it out there on the map definitely gave us the opportunity to be able to host the partnership. In your perspective, do you think the strategies that are being put into effect are the most effective, or do you believe that there are other ways in which Rwanda can be able to market the sport, cycling, in more ways so that we can be able to attract either investment or even more people to be accustomed to cycling?
Well, honestly, I think Christian mentioned earlier that we are at the beginning stage. Honestly, I think we need to be realistic as well. Tour de Rwanda itself has only 17 years. Of course, one may think it's a long time, but honestly speaking, we still have a long way to go. However, the trend that we're having in this country is also playing a big role. Definitely, I think that we can still do a lot. Again, we are not intending to reinvent the wheel at the end of the day. I think we can see what's happening elsewhere. But of course, to be able to do more than what we are doing today, there's some basics that really need to be put in place, And I think that we are getting there slowly. However, personally, I think that the strategy that we are putting in place in every sector, in every, I would say, discipline of sports, it's still at the early stage. However, sure, when we are hosting events such as, the championship or BAL or whatsoever, definitely we have this, I would say, we also benefit from, influence of, all these bigger, I would say, entities or bigger event and marketing, agencies that are, we benefit from their experience to also actually apply the same in our countries. But to be honest, I would say that we are still at an early stage, and although we are really on a very good trend in terms of marketing of what we have here to offer, actually. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we are witnessing a sports development, but also sustainability is key as well. And Christian, using the case of the Rwanda Mountain Gorilla Rally, as we're speaking about sustainability, investment is also a key in terms of making the sports industry sustainable. How do sponsors respond to your invitations when you ask them to join Rwanda Automobile Club, or even organizing the competition in general?
Yeah, it's not an easy. It's not an easy win when it comes to sponsorship in our market. I think this is an honest and shared opinion. But if I look at both sides, so there is a corporate who you are speaking to sponsor the event, but also you as the organizer or the federation that is promoting this event. I feel like there has been probably a long journey where corporate and sponsors didn't capitalize much on what they had invested into the sport, and probably they didn't see the right return as they expected, and that drove to a remarkable drop into the sponsorship culture in the market. So which I think needs to be revisited. Really, it's a call that I think all the decision makers, especially in the corporate world, need to reconsider, because by sponsoring sports, you're not only you're investing. That's one, because you're getting return in terms of your sales will increase either directly or indirectly. Your visibility will be higher. You'll be appreciated more by your customers or by the consumers of your product. But also you're impacting, you're contributing to development of a sector which will create jobs or whatever we talked about. So, but sponsorship, it has been previously seen as just money you put in an event, maybe you get a banner, you get this visibility, and it's over there. So it has been very hard to be able to get sponsors that can commit on 3 years partnership, on 2 years partnership. But also on some end, you can understand their way. They're like, okay, we need to see, we need a concept of proof, we need to see this working, then we can come on board. So, but I think it's a journey. It requires really to develop an appealing product. If today I was not in motorsport as the head of the federation, and I was just going to go in as an investor, I understand that it's a product that is growing, so this is the right stage where you can invest in. Because you're going to grow with the product, you're going to grow and you're going to benefit even in the future. So you'd rather be the first in that sector and be the first to position yourself. Talking about Tour du Rwanda, which other visibility do you want if you have 7 days all around the country, guaranteed visibility from the beginning to the end, the full day, you are live on TV, you have the population alongside the road. It's massive. Anyone who can take a decision, anyone who's willing to do the numbers and convert those numbers into a tangible income or revenue, it's an easy equation that they can do. So I really encourage sponsors. Yes, they have their reasoning why and they have their targets, but I think it's time to consider not only the visibility part. They need to consider the impact part. They need to consider the investment. They also need to sit on the table and put forward numbers. Like if I invest in you, if I put sponsorship in your event, I want to get a report showing how the viewership. I want to see the interaction, and there is a sponsor. Sorry, just to give you an example. In the past, they used to give as sponsorship. It was a bank, so I'll just give you a number. So they will give us sponsorship over a weekend. They tell us, so we're going to into this district. We'll bring our sales team. They're going to make sure that they open, let's say, 200 accounts. It's not our responsibility, but we're creating a platform for them. We're bringing people so that they can activate their product and open bank accounts. Whatever happens after them activating is none of our business, but we have created the opportunity. Same for cycling, same for football, same for basketball. So I think sponsorship needs to be considered not as charity. It's an investment, and an investment comes with numbers. Numbers can be returned into visibility, returned into future income, but that's what I think people now need to sit on the table and really discuss properly around sponsorship.
Yes, but I also do believe good things do take time, and as we see the various events and the more awareness that is brought to the sport, like the FIA Awards, I'm sure a lot of people learned about the motorsport industry as well as the benefits that they can reap from that during the event or the events that were surrounding the main event. So I'm sure such opportunities or such events do bring light to the sport and do bring light to the benefits of investing into such sport.
Yeah, I fully agree. That's for the local investors, but also for the international investors, because we have, I would say probably 60% of the audience we had at the FIA Awards, even 80%. There are people who had just come to Africa, not only to Rwanda, to Africa for the first time.
Yeah.
And most of them are like, okay, this exists in Africa, this exists in Rwanda. You guys have motorsport, can we talk about this? Some of them picked interest, some of them are saying even how can we connect the market to our existing investments in other markets. So by hosting such event, by pushing, my colleague Freddie did mention media really I appreciate, and I also want to push again, because media plays a big role into positioning motorsport, not motorsport, only any sport. Because the way they portray the message, the way they convey the message is what the sponsors will absorb. the way they described what the industry is, what the sponsors will absorb. So they need to understand, and they already understand, but they really need to push and to put another push on that to help the sport by portraying the sport as an industry and not just as a risky industry, because, you know, honestly speaking, some of the comments that get pushed out are not in favor of sport.
Yeah.
And if an investor hears that or reads that article, they won't pick interest, they won't pick appetite to come. So media, we appreciate them, but there is now that you know, understanding of that contribution that is needed, and this is the right timing. It's really where everything is, you know, all the stars are aligning towards that one goal of growing sport in Rwanda. The government has done a lot in terms of infrastructure, in terms of allowing us to host events like FIA, UCI, BAL, you know, name it. The government has done it. Now it's our time, all the players, everyone from, you know, at their level, to take the relay and say, okay, now it's our time to push, and we have to make sure that we complete or deliver on the mission that the government has given to us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Freddie, as we look towards the future, in your own opinion or in your perspective, what do you think we need to encourage to ensure the sustainability as well as growth of achievements registered so far in sports development in Rwanda?
Well, I think that you just mentioned sustainability. And sustainability starts from, was mentioned earlier, first of all, we need to professionalize what we are doing. I mean, in this industry, it's very key. That's only how you can make the difference. No matter how you have beautiful stadiums, you have beautiful whatever infrastructure, but if you're not professional what you're doing, you can't make it. So how do we get there? It's Christian talked about it earlier when he gave the example of the students and everything. It has to start from there. But also, when we are bringing on board all these volunteers, you know, all these talents, not from an athlete's perspective, but also those people organizing, delivering the event. It's very important that we create a niche of professionals in every sectors, every sports sectors that we are creating, and it's not complicated. I think. What is important is that even those athletes that we have, because they have a lifetime anyways, we also need to have an inclusion where we bring them on board, because they are no longer athletes. Tomorrow they will be coach, but after tomorrow, give you an example, they become a tourist guide, you know. So again, still I'm talking about cycling, where it's also very important. So I think that going forward, it's very important that we create such, let me say, such a huge ecosystem where, you know, we create professional among Rwandans. And I can't, you know, repeat it enough, because when I look at where we came from, the Tour Rwanda was actually organized by 99% foreigners. Understand? And today, here we are. It is organized by Rwandans. That's the only way we can, you know, we can guarantee sustainability, because we know as Rwandan what we want as a country from the vision of our leadership, and then we do what it takes, you know, to get where we are going. So I believe that it is very important that we become professional, but also all this we are doing has to be in the perspective, which is actually the subject today, business-oriented. It's very important. And to do that is that we somehow, let's say, we actually get away from the government holding our hands, you understand? We need to grow at some point and really take responsibility and being completely independent and create now, you know, because we have been given everything, platform, business ecosystem, opportunities, but now it is up to us. And I think Christian mentioned, it is now our time now to play.
Yeah. Okay?
And for me, I think that if we are all able to, you know, to get to that, towards that direction, we will be ready to you know, this opportunity, this business, this ecosystem will last forever. Before I end my intervention, I remember during the COVID, just to give you an example, during the COVID, obviously, all the foreign, partner, technical partner, I mean, they were frightened to come to Rwanda, so which would have translated into no to Rwanda. You understand? So I think it's very important in everything that we are doing, not only in sport. We need to look at, let me call it, business continuity. It's very important, and the only way to do that is tap into all, the force that we have in our country, and make sure that people are really able now to deliver at the international standard. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you very much. You mentioned something very important about in order for sustainability to be into full fruition is us doing it on our own as Rwandans and not relying on foreign entities. So thank you very much for shedding light on that. Now, and looking ahead, this question is for both of you. What vision do each of you have for sports in Rwanda over the next 5 to 10 years? We'll start with you, Christian.
So I'll probably answer it in a couple of points. So Rwanda becoming and is becoming the hub of sports in Africa. To become a hub, so there is a couple of elements. So the professionalism that Freddie talked about, infrastructure is already governance, a very conducive environment by our government, security, connectivity, airline, health, all these parameters, I believe that are already ticked. So becoming a hub. Number 2, having an athlete who's valued, who has really, I don't want to use that, who has a price tag, if I can say, who can say, okay, this athlete has been through the academy, the junior team, the senior team, moved from this management to this management company, and is becoming an international product by himself or by the management. Number 3 is having strong and commercially viable sport leagues, federation, fully independent, that can be able to sustain themselves economically, but also to grow and be at a level where they will say they are stable and think to the next generation.
Thank you very much. And over to you.
Well, personally, I think that number 1 is, and I'm talking from a, let's say, federation perspective. I think it's very important that we reach a point where we have full sustainability, because in Rwanda we have also to admit that we are still dependent from the government as well, fundings and support, and we need to really reduce that to the I would say to the maximum, and that will be only possible if we take it and embrace this opportunity as a business. So that's number 1. Number 2, I think that it's my perspective would be to reach a point where we are actually exporting our expertise. Earlier, Christian touched about not only Rwanda. We are not just targeting Rwanda. We are having opportunity that not many countries on the continent have. So it's very important that we take that into consideration and we bear in mind that these opportunities are lifetime opportunities. So we need to be able to, tomorrow, to export also our expertise, talking about our continent itself, without even going beyond. So I think that we have everything that it takes today in our country to grasp that and be able tomorrow to say, why not tomorrow Christian team is organizing a rally in Senegal, okay, to the international level. Why not? Because when you see what is happening in this country, it is up to us now.
We're coming to the conclusion of the show, but before we conclude, Freddie, could you briefly tell us about the upcoming Tour du Rwanda? How far have you gone with the preparations?
Well, I think we're pretty good, well advanced, and we are quite ready to start next week on Sunday. Basically, we had a bit of challenges. I think you have all seen, in the medias and everything about the one team, withdrawing. But again, it was an isolated case, and we still have confidence and we still have trust of all other teams, to come and participate to the event. Basically, one thing I want maybe to highlight, which is very important, and also touch about what we've been talking about earlier, it's for this year we are actually recording. We have been able to secure a very strategic partnership with Canal Plus Africa International, where we are actually going to broadcast the last stage, which will be the stage of the championship in September, on Canal Plus International, which is a milestone for us, because we have been having live coverage, but mainly on RBA local. But this year we are having live coverage of the last stage on Canal Plus, so you can really understand the impact of that. So I think this is one of the things that we are very proud of. Otherwise, all other aspects are green. We don't have really major, concerns so far. We had even earlier this afternoon an important meeting with all the steering committee, and things really are really on track, and we are quite ready for the D-Day.
Yes, good luck with the continued preparations. And over to you, Christian, briefly. What do you have in the near future at Rwanda Automobile Club?
Yes, our top event of the year is the Rwanda Mountain Gorilla Rally, happening in July this year. So we came a bit earlier in the year to be able to do it in the summer period. So we're preparing it. We're expecting a good turn-up for from abroad and local participants. We have committed on the 3 years journey to win this championship. We have been hosting, but now we want at least this year or next year to win it. So we're working with our local drivers to make sure that we prepare and host, but also win wherever possible and whenever possible.
Yes, thank you so much once again for partaking in this very insightful conversation. I'm sure the people who were listening were able to learn a thing or two about the sports industry in Rwanda, respectively or specifically in the Rwanda automobile industry or the cycling, and as well as using the opportunities that we have or that we can create to make our sports industry more of business-oriented and much more. So thank you so much to our guests, Freddy Kamuzizi as well as Christian Gakwaya, for joining us here today, and to our viewers for tuning in. It's very clear that the future of sports in Rwanda holds tremendous promise, like we've heard, not only for athletes and fans, but for our economy and communities as a whole. So until next time, the summit, keep pushing boundaries and reaching new heights. Thank you once again for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.